Hello everyone, this is Miss Casey with Fibo Kids Art Academy. Welcome back to another November Daily Draw. Today is day 26 and happy Thanksgiving to you all. So I'm so excited for this day and our daily draw. We are going to be drawing gourds. Now, if you don't know what a gourd is, that's okay because I barely know what a gourd is. However, I do know that gourds are fruits and they are similar to pumpkins and squashes. However, they have a hard shell. They usually have this really cool, fun texture, and they can be used as decoration and they last a very long time compared to pumpkins or squash that you can eat. So we are going to be drawing some gourds, also some pumpkins and squash in that same family. Let's go ahead and get started with our drawing. As you can see on my table here, these are going to be a little pattern of gourds, and they're also really cute gourds because they have faces on them. So we're going to have a lot of fun with today's drawing. You can definitely make this a little bit more realistic without the faces, or you can even make it much cuter with different faces. That is all up to you. So let's go ahead and get started. For our drawing, you want to make sure you have a piece of paper, and this can be any piece of paper. You can use a regular piece of paper, or maybe you're using a sketchbook. Go ahead and grab that out. And then for our drawing, we want to make sure we number it 26. Again, it is Thanksgiving today, so we'll number it 26. And then to get started, we want to take out our drawing material. So you're going to take out your pencil. Make sure you're using your pencil throughout the drawing today. However, I will be using a Sharpie so you can see my drawing better. All right, friends, let's go ahead and get started. Now, since this is a pattern, the gourds that I draw don't really have to be in the same placement. You just want to make sure that you have them spread out, and mine kind of have this little flowing pattern. So I want to start it off with a small amount, and then as it comes out, it gets wider and the gourds get bigger. Okay, so that's the way that I'm going to do it. Maybe you want to do it the opposite way. Maybe you want to go from big to small. That will be up to you. However, I'm going to start first with a little gourd, little mini gourd, or like a pumpkin kind of shape. So to start, I want to go to the top of my paper, and I'm going to draw a rainbow line, a small little rainbow line at the top. Then I'm going to come directly below it, depending on how big you want that one. I'm going to go ahead and draw a letter U. So at the top and the bottom, directly below it. Once I have those two lines, I'm going to come back to the top. I'm going to make a small little curved line and bring that down, out, nice and wide like a diagonal. Because at the bottom, I want it to be much wider and connect down to the side of that letter U. Now I want to do the same thing on the right side, so that way when I'm done drawing this gourd, it looks smaller, thinner at the top, and then gets wider at the bottom. So I'm going to come back up to the top, and on the right side, draw a small curved line, bring that down, out nice and wide, and then curve it back into my letter U. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and add the stem with a small little circle at the top. So now I have that gourd. If you want, you can at the stem, you can add some little curly lines. A lot of the times pumpkins have these little vines that kind of curl out from the stem. And then once you have that, if you would like to add a face, you can go ahead and draw a face. Now these can look however you want. They can have any different expressions and faces that you want. But again, if you want to keep it a little bit more realistic, you don't have to add the face. But for this one, I'm going to make it kind of look like it's sleeping. Maybe it's barely waking up. So I'm going to have two little curved lines like letter U's for the eyes, and then a small little letter O or a circle for the mouth. Once I have that, that's going to be my first one. I'm going to come down, move over, down directly to the left, and I want to make this one a little bit bigger. This one's going to look more like a squash shape. So at the top, I'm going to draw a nice big rainbow. Then I'm going to bring it down on the left side and curve it out. And then again, I'm going to curve it down on the right and curve it out as well. However, at the very bottom, once I reach the bottom, I'm going to add a letter U to show the extra lumpiness that it has. Once I have that squash shape at the very top, I'm just going to add a little curved line For the stem, it's not as big as a pumpkin stem. It's a little bit thinner. And then once you're done drawing that shape for that gourd or that squash, then we're going to add a face. And again, you don't have to add a face, or you can change the face if you want. But I'm going to add two nice small circles for the eyes, spread apart. Then I'm going to add a nice little curved line right in the middle for the mouth, add a couple of curved lines at the end of the mouth, and then I'm even going to add some little small ovals for the cheeks. Okay, and then inside the eyes, you can decorate the eyes however you want. I'm just going to add two smaller circles right inside for the eye sparkle. Now that I have that gourd, next I'm going to move on to another mini pumpkin. So over to the right a little bit, I'm going to make this small. I'm going to start with a rainbow line, then directly below it, add a letter U. And then on the sides, I'm going to draw a letter C, and I want to make this look really big, so instead of having a smaller letter C at the top and bringing it out wider like I did in the first one, I want to have these nice and big. So same thing on the right, nice and big, backward C. And then at the top, I'm going to go ahead and add in my stem, the little circle at the top, and there's my mini pumpkin. And then again, you can add in a face if you'd like, any face. I'm going to draw again two little smaller circles for the eyes, and then a nice big letter U for the mouth, and go in and add my eye sparkles in the top corners. Okay, now once I have that pumpkin there, I'm going to come down again over to the right and add an even bigger pumpkin. So I'm going to add a bigger rainbow line for the top, a bigger letter U, and as you notice, I'm tilting my pumpkins and gourds in different directions just to give it some variety rather than having them all sitting up straight. But you can change it in different directions if you want. Again, you can change the way the pattern looks. You can have the sway or the flow of your gourds going in a different way and different direction. But now that I have the top and bottom of that pumpkin, I'm going to again draw a nice big letter C. Make it look full on the left, and then again on the right. Nice big letter C, nice and full on the left and right. Now that I have that pumpkin, I want to draw the stem, and I want to draw two curved lines with an oval at the top. Okay, and again at the top of that, if you want, you can definitely add in a little vine. If you want, maybe you want two. Okay, once you have that, then you can go ahead and add another face if you are adding faces, and this can look however you want. I'm going to have these eyes curved down to make it look like maybe it's super happy, it's closing its eyes, or maybe it's taking a little nap. And then right in the middle of that, I'm going to add another curved line for the mouth. And then I'm also going to add in right underneath the eyes some cheek lines, or some cheek shapes. All right, but now that I have that face, I'm going to move down over to the left and add another little pumpkin shape. And so again, I'm going to add a rainbow line. I have my letter U. And then I want this pumpkin to look much more like this pumpkin up here, where it's thinner at the top and wider at the bottom. However, it's going to be much bigger, similar to this one. So on the top, I'm going to have a small curved line and then bring that down nice and wide and into the bottom of my pumpkin. Same thing for the right. Small at the top and bring it down nice and wide and into the side of my pumpkin. Now that I have that, I want to make sure I draw the stem, and again, you can change up the direction of your stems. This one's going to the left, to the right, to the right, to the left, so you can change that up. Just don't forget to add the little circle at the top. And of course, if you are drawing faces, don't forget to add your face. Have two small circles, a little open mouth. Okay, if you even want to add eyebrows, you can add eyebrows. It's up to you. And then once you have that face, next for my last little gourd here, I'm going to kind of have a similar shape to this. However, it's going to have a much smaller tip of the head, and it's going to be tipping over to the side much more than this one is. So I'm going to draw a rainbow, or like a backward C, curving to the right, and then bring this left line, curve it out, curve this right line in, and then back out. And then I'm just going to have it a closed shape rather than a little bit of a lumpy bottom. Now once I have that shape, I'm going to add in my stem with a little couple of curved lines. It almost looks like a pear. However, gourds do have similar shapes. They're very round, and again, they have this lumpy, bumpy texture. Once you have that shape for your gourd though, then you can go ahead and add your face, and again, you can make your face look however you want. I'm going to have this one really happy, so it has a big mouth and then the tongue showing. Now, once you have added in your gourds and your pumpkins, your squash, anything else that you want to add, and you can definitely add more. Maybe you want more bigger ones down at the bottom, smaller ones up at the top, fill in some of those spaces. But instead of filling in the spaces with gourds, for me and my pattern, I'm going to actually fill in the spaces with a couple of fall leaves. So you can follow along with me or do your own and get creative. However, I'm going to come back up to the top, and I'm going to add this fall leaf with some points, but instead of pointy leaf, I'm going to have it a rounded leaf at each point, and then draw a line down the middle for the stem. And then I'm going to come over to this other empty space over here, do a similar kind of leaf with those rounded tips, bring it down, and then a line down the middle going the opposite direction. Maybe I'll have one over here, and it's going to be a little bit more of a regular leaf. And then maybe another one down here, and again, a little bit more of a regular leaf. And then another multiple tipped leaf, rounded with my line down the middle, the stem. So again, if there's anything else that you would like to add, as you can see, mine kind of curves out a little bit, starts small and then gets a little bit bigger. So you can change yours up. You can make even smaller shapes up at the top and bigger shapes down at the bottom. Whatever you have room for, however you want to draw that. If you want to add a couple of vines on your pumpkins, change that up, different faces, all of that is up to you. But once you're done drawing in your gourds, your faces, your leaves, adding to your pattern, that is the end of the drawing. So once you're done with your drawing, you can go ahead and take your Sharpie next and outline all of those lines that you drew. Now, if you don't want to outline with your Sharpie, you can also outline with your markers. I'm going to be using color pencils to fill in and shade my gourds today. So if you are following along with me and using color pencils, you can definitely outline with your marker. However, if you are choosing to use paint or watercolors to fill in your gourds today, you don't want to outline with marker. You want to outline with a permanent marker instead, because you don't want that marker to bleed with the water. So keep in mind what it is that you would like to do. However, I'm keeping mine outlined in Sharpie, and then I will be using color pencils to fill it in. So have fun, decide what it is that you would like to do, and if you do need a little bit more time as you're outlining, please feel free to pause and then press play when you're ready to continue. Now, if you are ready, we're going to go ahead and get out our color pencils, and again, you can use any materials you want. However, what I do recommend is that if you're still using a Sharpie or if you have it nearby, go in and fill in those little areas that you want to be black, like around the eyes. If you have any open mouth. Okay, you don't want to fill in the little cheek shapes. Those can be in a different color or with your color pencils. I usually like to make them like pink. Okay, so I filled in all of those areas. I can put my Sharpie away and continue on with my color pencils. Now what I want to show you is with my sample here, rather than filling everything in, I've actually only added in a little bit of shading up at the tops and edges of my gourds and pumpkins, and then left the center a little white. I did add in a couple of lines just to give it some texture, but it's basically only shading. I added some color to the edges and then left the center lighter and white. So that kind of gives it a nice little glow effect, even though it's like the opposite of a glow since the middle is lighter. But I think it makes it look a little bit more interesting. It also makes it pretty fun and simple. So if you want to continue with that, it doesn't have to be color pencils. You can definitely do this in marker instead if you want. But I'm going to be using color pencil, and I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to be using and sticking to our fall color scheme. Those are colors like reds, oranges, yellows, browns, and even some green. So I'm going to take out my orange first. And if you're using color pencil, make sure you have a sharpener ready at hand in case you need to use it. But what I'm going to be doing with my orange first is I'm going to go around my edge. And I'm just going to add in a little bit of an outline or a border around my edges. The left, the right, the bottom, top. And once I've outlined it with my color pencil, I'm going to go where these little bumps are, and I'm going to follow them up to the top. Some of them will connect to each other. Some of them you may only have one at the bottom. You can just follow that up. You do want to make sure you follow the shape. So if I were doing this one, I have this curved line and I want to curve with that shape. I'm also going to add in a line right down the middle, even though it's not drawn in there, that I do want that extra section in the middle of my pumpkin. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And once I have those lines and I've outlined, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just add a few extra color to the very top of my pumpkin and the bottom. Now I don't want to fill this in completely. I'm just adding a little bit of shading up at the top and bottom of those areas. And then as I move up, I'm going to press just a little bit lighter. But I'm still not filling everything in quite yet. Just kind of blending, fading out that shadow, shading. And then once I've done that, for the rest of my pumpkin in the center, I'm just going to very lightly add in a few extra lines, keeping it nice and light, but adding in those lines is going to make it look a little bit more interesting, textured, and give it a little bit more to look at. Now, if you would prefer it to be a little bit lighter, maybe as you added in lines, you lost that lightness, you can always go in with an eraser right on top of that lighter area and erase some of that. It'll also help kind of blend it in if you'd like. Okay, now once you've done that, you also want to do the same thing to your stem. So you want to go across the top, the sides, the bottom, and you can even add an extra line in the middle for some texture, and then leave a little bit of that area white, and then you can go in, erase some area if you'd like, and now my top pumpkin is done. Next, I'm going to take a green for this squash here, and I'm going to do the same thing. However, I don't have those extra lines at the top, so I'm just going to follow along the edges, so the top, the sides. You want to try and make these edges a little bit thick. You want them to stand out. I'm going to go across the top, the side here, and also the bottom. So once I have that, then I'm going to go and follow the shape of my squash or my gourd. So I'm going to use this letter U at the bottom, follow that shape, and it's okay if you go through your eyes or your little cheek shape. You can cover that up later. But I'm just following that shape, adding a few more lines. Inside, add in some texture, and I'm coming down the middle, but again, following that shape. And then again on the right side, and following that shape. Okay, and once I have those lines inside, I'm going to add a little bit more shading along the top area and along the bottom. Make it dark, top and bottom. And once I've added in that shading, that darkness, at the top and bottom. I'm going to lighten it up as I come up further. Press a little bit lighter. That's going to help it get a little bit lighter. Do that at the top as well. And once you've added in that little bit of shading at the top and bottom, you can continue with some extra light lines in those lighter areas. And that will help keep it light but still give it some texture and color and make it look nice. Okay, once you're done with that, if you would like to make some areas a little bit darker, you can go back in, add in more layers to make some areas darker, like the edges, the top and bottom, your extra lines in the middle. You can even go in with a darker version of this color to help you with those shadows. And if you would like your lighter areas to look a little bit lighter, you can again go in with your eraser, go back in, get some of those lighter areas light again, blend some of that area out. And then there is that. Don't forget your stem. And again, you want to get the top and bottom, and then the center can be a little bit lighter. Okay. Now once you have that, you can move on to your next pumpkin or gourd. Now I'm going to again use these fall colors. I'm going to move on to a red, and I'm going to go in the same steps, the same process. Get the edges, top and bottom. Once I have the top and bottom, I'm going to add a couple more lines. Line in the middle as well. And once I have those extra lines, I'm going to go ahead and add some more color to the top and bottom, add in some shading. Get lighter as I come up and away from the bottom and top. Blend it out a little bit. And once I'm done blending that out for the middle, I'm just going to add a couple more lines, keeping it nice and light. And if I got a little bit too dark and I want to go back, get it lighter, go in with my eraser and lighten it up a bit. Okay, and so once you're done with that, again, just don't forget the stem. Now the very top where the circle is, you can just fill that in completely. Okay, once you have that, again, you can move on to different colors, different shades of one color. Maybe you want to do a yellow-orange this time. Maybe you want to do a yellow or a gold. I think I'm going to go with a lighter yellow here. I'm going to go into my edges, top, bottom, and sides. And again, it's all the same process. So you're just going to continue doing the same thing. Now, if you have different gourds or different facial expressions, don't worry about the face right now. We're just coloring right on top of the face. If you have a different shaped gourd, just go ahead and follow. Make sure you're following the shape, adding some texture lines where you can. Making sure to go in the middle, add those extra lines. Add any extra lines if you need it. And then once you're done adding in your shade, your outline, go in and add in some shading along the top and bottom. Get it a little bit lighter as you come away. And then for the center, to keep it light, you're just going to add light lines going down the center. So hopefully as I get into these larger pumpkins and gourds, you'll be able to see this process a little bit better. So hopefully you're following along and doing it nicely. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it. And then again, if you get it too dark in that lighter area, just take your eraser, erase some of that area, get those lighter lines back. And then if you want to go a little bit darker, you can go back in with that color, add some extra layers. That'll help get it darker, or you can go in with a darker color. Don't forget your stem. And then if you have room, you can even add a few extra lines inside your stem just for some texture. And then those lighter areas, keep them nice and light. Okay, once you have that, again, you can move on to a different color. I'm going to go into a little bit of a red-orange. I'm just outlining right now. Once you're done outlining, go ahead and get those texture lines, making them nice and thick. Going down the center. Once you have that outline, you can go ahead and get a little bit darker at the top and bottom, get your shadow shaded in. Kind of looks a little bit like bangs when you started off at the top. Looks funny. But then we go in and we add more shading. Get it lighter as it comes away. Fade out that shadow. And then add in those extra light lines down the middle in those lighter areas. And if you want to keep it light, go in, erase some of those lines, blend it out a little bit. Get those areas a little bit darker if you need it. Okay, don't forget the stem. Again, you want to get the top, the edges, add a couple extra lines for texture, and then get those lighter areas in the middle. Okay, now I have my last gourd here. I think I'm going to do a gold. And this one doesn't really have any lumps. It's just a full shaped like squash maybe, or a different type of gourd. Gourds do tend to have stripes or like pattern, like speckles and things like that. So if you want to follow a specific pattern for a gourd, you can. I'm just going to add a little stripe down the middle here. And again, following that shape, making it nice and thick. And once I have that, add in a little bit of shading at the top, shading at the bottom, and then add in my extra lines coming down. Get a little bit lighter if I need it. Get my stem. All right, and now lastly I have my leaves. Now you can do the same thing with your leaves, or you can just get a nice little edge, darken up that edge, get it a little bit thick, and then as you come toward the middle, just get lighter and lighter, which means that you'll press lighter or don't color it in at all. So I have my border around my leaf. I decided to make it brown since I don't have any brown right now. And then I'm just gonna press a little bit lighter as I come along the edge of that darker outline. And then just get lighter and lighter as I come in toward the middle. And then again, if you want, you can just fill it in, get lighter and lighter as you come in, or you can just leave it empty. Erase maybe a little bit more along the center, and then you can have that like reverse glow effect. So it's darker on the outside and gets lighter as you come in toward the middle. And again, you can do that with any fall colors if you're following our color scheme, or you can change it up with any colors that you want. You can even add in some veins, some texture to your leaves. You want the outer edge to be much darker. You can lighten it up a little bit with your eraser as you come away. Don't be afraid to reuse some of the same colors, or you can just do different shades of those colors. And then once you're done with your pattern, that is going to be it for our picture today. So that was our daily draw. Hopefully you guys had a lot of fun with it. I definitely learned much more about gourds than what I knew from before, so that was fun to learn. But I also hope you had fun doing this drawing. I also hope that you have an amazing Thanksgiving with your family, loved ones, and that you have a lot to be thankful for. So you guys can continue coloring in your pattern, have a lot of fun with that. Continue using the same process if you were following along with me, or just continue coloring it in. But thank you guys so much for joining with me today on this special Thanksgiving day. Again, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. My name is Miss Casey, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.